the Democrats, a handful of them, decided, you know what, guys, maybe it's time we make some compromises here, try to get the government reopened. And of course, Will, that is far too much, so much so that a group of Democrats, House Democrats, is calling for Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, longtime leader in Washington, D.C. They said, you know what? A little bit of compromise is too much for us. We're calling for you to resign.
Well, in reality, what the Democrats that left the party stronghold on this vote to reopen the government were just wanting to do that, reopen the government, let people that are on SNAP benefits get their benefits, let the air traffic get back to normal. And Chuck Schumer, from the beginning, you know that he has been terrified of the far left of his base. There's always the talk about whether or not Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will run for his seat and try to primary him for the Senate in New York. So when you see the outrage from the House, one, the House Democrats don't really get a say in who the party leader is in the Senate, but it speaks to where maybe many on the left in the Senate are when it comes to this. We know that Bernie Sanders was very upset that these 8 Democrats decided to vote to end the government shutdown. And now you're seeing people like Seth Moulton from Massachusetts, Ro Khanna from California, Rashida Tlaib, Mike Levin from California, and many others are starting to come out and say he's ineffective. How dare he capitulated to the Republicans, when in reality, Jordan, I think the Democrats in the Senate that did decide to end this realized that it was nonsensical and hurting the country.
Yeah, it was hurting the country. It was hurting their constituents. So for Tim Kaine to have, so many government employees in his state, in Virginia, and then, of course, military, too. The pressure, when you add military plus the bureaucrats who live in Virginia, this is a significant amount of the voting group on both sides of the aisle in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So he just couldn't withstand the pressure anymore. And so did they get anything? Absolutely not. The left only hurt the American economy for a month. And they made people scared. They hurt the SNAP benefit programs. And what did they get from it? Ultimately, a peel-off of 8 Democrat senators who said, this is absurd, Chuck Schumer. This is absurd. This is ultimately going to backfire on us. And even though shutdowns usually are blamed on the party in charge, when it shows you that these 8 Democrats now actually came across, how can you say that Republicans were the problem here when obviously it was Chuck Schumer and others saying, we can't break, we can't fold. But ultimately, these brave Democrat senators said, enough.
And I think this is what's so fascinating to me is you see the pressure that's coming from the left wing of the party. Now, the ones that are vocal about it right now are the ones in the House because they have that luxury, because I don't think the left-wing senators are as vocal right now, but I could expect that could change very shortly. We know that there's a lot of people, especially the members of the Senate, that weren't in that group of 8 that decided to help end the government shutdown. We're not happy about this. But here's what Rashida Tlaib put out on X. She said, Senator Schumer has failed to meet this moment and is out of touch with the American people. The Democrat Party needs leaders who fight and deliver for working people. Schumer should step down. What I would question the Congresswoman is how is keeping people who need food assistance from getting that? How is keeping people who have to go to extremely stressful jobs like the military, like being an air traffic controller, like doing anything where you are in public service, where you're working for the U.S. government, forcing them to work without pay. How is that fighting and delivering for working people by continuing to keep the government shut down? It's not like this was some Republican wish list bill. What the Republicans were trying to push was a continuing resolution. It's actually filled with a lot of stuff Republicans don't want to be funding.
Funding at the normal level. It just didn't increase funding. That was it. It just said, for this period of time, we can't come to a long-term agreement, so we're going to continue funding the government at the pace we have been, which is, again, Republicans who would like to cut government spending saying because of we don't have time and we don't want people to suffer, and we want our military, we want our veterans to make sure they're getting the benefits. We want people who rely on SNAP because they're in a tough economic spot to be able to get those benefits as well. We don't want to take a hit on the economy, which this has caused. But again, the Democrats said no, because you've got to expand Obamacare premium. And you've got to expand the Obamacare program, not keep it the same,
Right.
but you've got to actually expand it and expand the mandate. And we've seen the cost in that program continually rise under both parties. And President Trump has now come out with proposals, which we've talked about before in the past, Republicans have talked about, is that instead of giving this money basically to insurance companies to set up these exchanges to lower cost, why don't we give money to the people so that they can go to the insurance companies and negotiate themselves?
Well, and to that point as well, and this is
They can only use it for that. So if you're going to get the money, you can't go and buy a car with it. If you're going to get them, if you're going to utilize it, it's to get insurance for you and your family, but you then are in the position to get the exact insurance that you need instead of the big insurance companies running the program. I just think there are ideas out now. People said Republicans had no idea of what to do to replace Obamacare, and President Trump is now letting more pieces of that out as we speak about, I think, the priority over the next few years, depending on election cycles, of what we could do to replace it with something better for the American people.
Well, and Jordan, I think to that point as well, where you can put a knock on the messaging to some Republicans is that the fight over this vote that the Democrats will get, they'll get a vote in the Senate. So that was the one giveaway. Now, they have no promises there will even be a vote in the House for this, but to maintain these expanded subsidies. And a lot of the Republican talking points were just specifically on the fact that this expanded subsidies could be used in some ways by people who are undocumented in the United States. And that was the big messaging point. I think the broader messaging point is actually more effective with not just the MAGA base or the Republican base or conservative base, but with all Americans, is that the subsidies they were fighting for weren't even the baseline Obamacare law. These were subsidies that Joe Biden got through during the COVID emergency. They were only meant to be, there's a reason they expired. The ones in the law, the ACA, don't expire because that was meant to be the healthcare law.
Right.
These were put in place in 2021 as a means to be a stopgap for people that their tax returns would show higher income than the suffering they were getting during the COVID pandemic because of turnover, not getting paid, maybe being laid off. So they had this stopgap that was supposed to expire.
Right.
That way people could get insurance during a time where they may have lost their job and whatever. The Democrats want to make that permanent.
Right, because it made it feel like it lowered the cost. It didn't. You just got more money to spend.
And what you also see here is that even Bloomberg News, not just the right and think tanks and things like that, but Bloomberg News did an expose about how rife with fraud that was, because brokerages and things saw an opportunity to sign people up for $0 out of their pocket healthcare plans. And then the brokerages and insurances made a lot of money during the COVID pandemic.
We do know that in this version, though, if there is a shutdown within the next year, that they'll get held over?
No. So the most of the government is only going to be funded through January 31st.
Okay.
So we got this coming again pretty soon.
Right, but it is the SNAP program, because the entire agriculture appropriations is through the end of the fiscal year next November. That, as well as military construction and veterans. So they're going to make sure they take care of the Veterans Affairs as well. And then the legislative branch.
Let's throw the FAA in there just to
I think they should have, right.
Military pay as well, right?
That have to do a little bit more research on that, but it is a part of military and construction projects. I don't know how broadly that reads in the appropriation.
Yeah.